Welcome to the Apex Racing TV Weekly Roundup podcast, your surefire way of keeping up to date with all of Apex Racing TV's broadcasted series. This week, we discuss the ARL Touring Car Championship, the Year of the 8 Supercar Series, and the SimRacersWorld Endurance Championship, along with the state of eSports racing and iRacing. So let's jump into the discussion with Sam Fitzpatrick and Marco Barbanera. Welcome back, Marco, to the Apex Racing TV Weekly Roundup podcast. And we are back to discuss 3 more seasons for what has been another terrific week on Apex Racing TV.
Absolutely. Hello, Sam. Hello, everyone. It's been a bit since we've done this. It's been almost like a weird thing because, the last episode was on the 3rd of March. And then a lot of things have changed, and now we are both stuck at home. But unbelievably, we didn't record anything in the meantime. So, there's a lot of catching up to do, and a lot of changes, of course, coming in the world of sim racing, and of course on Apex Racing TV, with a plethora of new series coming on board, and of course the new iRacing season 2 patch 1 and 2, which have introduced a lot of interesting things to the table. And of course, as you all probably know, iRacing's numbers have really exploded these past couple of weeks. We have always a giant number of, it's 5:30 in the afternoon right now here in Italy on, it's a Friday, and we have almost 10,000 iRacers online as of this moment. So a lot of people are racing. That's something that it's really incredible.
Yeah, the world was a very different place, wasn't it, on the 3rd of March? Apologies for the lack of podcast. I'll take responsibility for it, not getting onto these podcasts. But I thought today, we will do it. Absolutely do it. Fortunately for me, not too many notes we had to do because personally, I think Mark has done a lot of broadcasts as well this week. But I have done pretty much all the broadcasts, so apologies that you have to listen to my voice once again. If you have been tuning in this past week, you must be sick of it. You think about me, I've had to live with it for 19 years already. But hopefully you will enjoy the podcast we're going to do today. 3 series, like I said, and we'll talk a bit about iRacing, and there will be plenty to talk about iRacing, along with a little bit on Apex Racing League, a little bit of an update on that one. So the first series we will talk about will be the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship, Silverstone National. Another round to also, of course, Mid-Ohio as well. We didn't cover the first round on the podcast. Mid-Ohio was round 1. Cedric was the highest scorer from that round 1, and 57 odd cars was tricky for us to broadcast, no doubt about that, with a few of the issues that have arisen since the last build and the last couple of builds, to be fair. But Silverstone National was much more, much better. However, but again, 55 cars on a relatively small circuit, and it really was a lot of fun. So in race 1, Ash Sutton, he started on pole position. He was overtaken, though, by Jack Sedgwick midway through the race. A lot of shuffling about. Overtaking was of plenty. Cedric was shuffled down to 4th at one point, got back to 2nd, and eventually overtook Sutton to win that race. Simon Field was very impressive in the amateurs. In race 2, Pete Newman took the lead within the first couple of laps. He started up in 5th place, I believe. Kip Stevens was right with him as well in those early stages. It was a controversial race. Lots of contact with battle for 3rd position. I got one driver. Now, I won't name and shame, really, but there was a lot of contact with a certain driver. Not saying it was his fault, but there was a lot of contact. Craig Williams got back to 3rd place. So in the end, it was Newman winning out. As a amateur driver, Stevens amateur driver as well. That's a top 2. Great drive from the pair of them. And Craig Williams with a great drive through the order as well. And in race 3, Jens Holman. Marco, you'll appreciate Jose Mourinho defensive tactics. It was remarkable from Holman.
Not really, but okay.
Well, I mean, I'm talking as though I'm a football fan too. Well, back when he was with Chelsea, he wasn't too bad, was he? And then he went to Man U and parked a lot of buses. Holman jumping into a double-decker bus and managing to defend for ages. To be fair, it was great defensive driving. He unfortunately lost the race lead eventually and was in a little bit of a collision with Damien Harris. They had a been about Grieven was involved in that one as well. Van Broek was doing great. In the end, Jack Sedgwick, winner of race one, championship leader, he somehow managed to pass Grieven on the last lap, came from absolutely nowhere. Past Grieven on the last lap to win. Van Broek, brilliant third place for him. I swear that guy missed all the accidents. I don't know how he did it. Finished in third place, top of the amateur drivers. Silverstone National, Marco. What do you think of that calendar choice? And yeah, it provided some pretty exciting racing.
So this week the official BMW fixed and official Formula Sprint series, as you know, they have been following the same calendar now, and basically they use each almost always they use a different layout of the same racetrack whenever possible, and it almost always makes sense that you have the long track for the BMW and the shorter track for the F3. I don't know why Donington is the opposite every season. They have the GP layout for the F3 and the National for the, which is the better one, by the way, for
It
the
is a lot better. Yeah.
for the BMW. And I was thinking the same thing running around this week in those two series. As much as I despise the Grand Prix layout, especially the new, but I didn't like Silverstone even before they ruined it. For me,
Seriously, I didn't know about this hatred, Marco. You
I
dislike
I
Silverstone?
I completely dislike Silverstone. I disliked it
Wow, I
before,
adore the place.
and I dislike it even more now with the new parking lot section that they added a few years ago. But how much fun the national circuit! My goodness, it's one of my favorite places in iRacing to race. And to see TCR cars going around there, it's always a joy. It, it's one of the one of those cars, the TCR category. You need to have these not too big tracks. I mean, you can have a Spa every once in a while, Road America, but this car lives into mid to small size racetracks, and even in the WTCR they use, for example, Suzuka, they use the East, I think, layout, the one with the
Which we
start.
are visiting this season.
Exactly. I remember praising that choice with you. I don't know if on a podcast or in private. So, I mean, for me, it's the perfect decision. Of course, it's when you have this many cars in such a short, a small environment, despite the track being pretty wide. There's going to be some angry drivers at the end of the night, man. I mean, it's almost inevitable, but it's a decision that we always defend to have these, I mean, quote unquote, lower power cars, because the TCR is still a pretty powerful car, and have them race in these more fun, short, exciting layouts. Again, you can do every once in a while a bigger track, but this is the place to be. And to have the TCRs run on the GP layout would have been a crime against racing, in my opinion. So I have no issues with this decision.
Yeah, we visited the GP lot. I think it was the first ever ARLTC round back in the Winter Series last season, and that worked well. It was all right, but I think the national layout is even better, and the laps just you blink and a lap's gone. It's absolutely incredible. You get 20 odd laps done with a 1 minute per lap, 20-minute races. And it was absolutely brilliant. I'm just looking at the championship standings, and I must have been just dreaming when I thought Jack Sedgwick had scored the most points back in Mid-Ohio. Turns out he was actually down in 33rd place, I think, going into Silverstone. He's up into 7th now. He went up 26 places. Take a screenshot of that one because I don't think that'll happen too many times this season. Jason Cooper is top of the standings. Ben Palmer second. Ash Sutton in third. Then it's Grieven, Simmons, Balfour, Sedgwick, Harris, Cooper. and Howard rounding out the top 10. This is all before penalties, by the way, and I am predicting I had to go through 49 penalties at Mid High last week. I'm predicting over 60 for this week with the numbers at the moment, so that's going to be a lot of fun. To be fair, it is quite a lot of fun to go through the penalties. But word on Jack Sedgwick, Mark. I'm not sure if you saw the Daytona finale last season, where I mean, unbelievable. Well on course for the title win. I think took the lead in the last race of the season and then got punted out through no fault of his own, and Wojciech won his 6th title. Sedgwick, of course, going to be up there as one of the favourites. Who do you think is the favourite? Is it Sedgwick? Is it Suridovic? Is it someone else who perhaps? I mean, Ash Sutton. He's got no real life racing at the moment. He can finally commit to the season. Any names who you think are gonna come out on top?
Well, that's the beauty of this championship, of course, the fact that we have so many possible winners. I always believe in the when you come very close to a title win and then it fades away in the end. You either have you win the title the next season, or you have a complete disaster of a season. There is no in between. You don't have up and down season. It's either you win or you don't win. So I think that the fire of revenge must be very very strong within him. I think he's my favorite to of course I keep can I do a very sorry, like, I mean, we need to, and unfortunately, I'm the only one who can do this. But if we had the possibility, Sky Italy is launching a campaign, has launched a campaign today. It will make sense in a second. And they basically are asking, just to, because Italian Sky is not biased towards Ferrari, they are asking fans to vote on their website to basically pick among, there's a list of, let's say, 30 races, all of them won by Ferrari, and basically the top voters will be
Ferrari
getting
won 30 races? Jeez, I didn't even realise that.
they will be replayed basically in their entirety over the course of the next few weeks. And
Wow, okay.
if I had the so you want to watch Belgium 98? No, it's not going to be possible because Ferrari didn't win. I don't know, Germany of last year. No, you can't. Brazil 2012. No chance because Ferrari didn't win. This must have been either they didn't check or someone is a very 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 cruel person. But if I had, I would invite everyone that's listening, that watches, that races on our channels, because they put Brazil 2008.
Oh.
Which, yes, was won by.
Not even Brazil 06. I mean, 06 had all the benefits of 08 plus none of the negatives.
No,
Well, some of the negatives to be fair. But I mean, yeah, nowhere near as cool as 08. That is terrible. Why have they done that?
I don't know. Hopefully it wins, and because I still remember. Did I ever tell you how did I lived through that race? By the way.
I'm not sure. You'll have to remind us.
Well, of course, I was very deeply scarred by 2007, as you can imagine, no? Like 2007, I was scared all week coming into the. Then I kept playing it cool with my head. Of course, big fan of statistics. So I said, the maths are in favor of McLaren. I didn't care about Hamilton or Alonso, just didn't want Ferrari to win the title. And then that happened. I mean, and I couldn't sleep. I slept for like 30 minutes that night. I had school the next day, of course. And not only I was assaulted at the entrance of school by the fair weather fans of Ferrari. No, because they I've always been very vocal about my allegiances in F1. But also I had a cruel dream where I dreamed that I already woken up and that my father came to me and said, "Oh, they disqualified Raikkonen because of an infringement, and Hamilton won the title." And then I woke up again this time for real, only to realize that my dream was, false. No.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so flash forward 1 year,
Cool.
going to 2008, and you see the rain starts pouring down, and the cameras do a terrible job. With Alpha lap to go, I said, so when Massa crossed the start finish line, um, the Italian commentator on Sky said Felipe Massa is the world champion, and again it was chaos, it was drama. You had no idea what was going on, so it was like I missed the overtake on Glock because I stood up from the sofa, went into the bathroom, crying, like like this is not fair, not again, not again. And then my family came back and they said, "Look, Hamilton has won the championship." And I cannot say what I said to them because I thought they were pulling a prank on me, and then those tears of sadness became tears of joy. I mean, it was one of the wildest personal, emotional roller coasters I've ever had in my life. And that makes me think how much I'm missing sports right now. I mean, okay, this was a very, very long
And I would add that I was probably doing the exact same thing simultaneously. It was on my 8th birthday.
No.
Hamilton
Uh,
mega fan,
I mean,
and
eighth
for
birthday, okay,
him not
okay.
to, I mean, yeah, I was 8. It was on my birthday. I've got an
I was
exclusive
18.
guy.
I was already
Yeah,
a legal adult. I already voted in my first election.
that's why
No,
they
sorry,
shouldn't
it
have
was
lowered the
2008,
voting
right?
age.
I was 19.
And you don't even like Hamilton. You just dislike the opposition that much. Geez, you must have hated 06 at the World Cup. I mean, that must
Was
have been. I think they won the World Cup in Italy.
Yes, I was
Did 06?
celebrating
Yeah.
like a madman.
Are you okay? So is it just Formula One where you hate Ferrari?
It's a long story. It was worthy of a full episode in the future, I think. My tough
Okay.
relationship with Italian sporting personalities and teams, but the national team of football. I mean, it's like good, they make you very angry, but the times they make you happy, you are very very happy. So that summer was magical. I still have the flag from that I bought before the quarterfinals against Ukraine, hanging in the kitchen. So it's all I brought it everywhere to England, to Spain, to France, in all my vacations. It's dirty, it's been destroyed, but it's still there.
So that is our in-depth analysis of the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship. I feel like we can't really end it on that. I don't think you gave us an answer, Mark. Okay, who's going to win the championship?
Jack Sedgwick, I told you.
Okay, Jack Sedgwick, awesome. Okay, for Apex Racing Team. By the way, the top of the amateur drivers at the moment is Luke Cooper, Simon Field, like I said, very impressive at Silverstone. Mark Woodhouse ran at the top there. Of course, this is just the normal season. Of course, Suridovic last season finished 13th. He was outside the showdown places, but got I think 4 wins. So only got into the showdown via wins, and then proceeded to win the whole thing. So don't count anyone else. Get a few race wins, and you could be in with a chance. Suridovic currently absolutely nowhere in the. Where is he? He's doing really bad. Um, he is 38th at the moment, is Swidovic. He was 25th after Mido High, 38th, and you just think the guy is just going to magically bring it back inevitably, isn't he? But that is the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship. Of course, everything that we broadcast on the eSports Network is now broadcasted simultaneously on Apex Racing TV. So just make sure that you are subscribed to one of them, or perhaps both of them, and you'll be able to watch that one on Thursday at 20 GMT. Next up, we're going to talk about the Euro V8 Supercar series, and this time it was from Barcelona. Now, Barcelona, it's got a bit of a bad rep from us, and I've already criticised it today when I was broadcasting the AOSC because we're heading to Barcelona next. It's not my favourite circuit. I don't think it's anyone's favourite circuit, to be honest. Even Spanish people, I'm sure, will say that it's not the best track in the world. However, we did visit it in the V8 Supercar Series, and it was not a bad round at all. So George McClay, championship leader, of course, put it on pole for race one. He nearly got overtaken by Jackson going into turn one. Brandon gave him a couple of nudges. I think Jackson lost it by himself in the end. Then Jackson spun, hindering himself and Brandon, who both dropped down a little bit. Had Nomella up into second place after a decent qualifying. I think Sebula was up into third as well for a bit. Foggy then chased Sebula down. Made a mistake. Sorry, no, he got past Sebula. Then chased Nomella down. Has a weird off at turn four, which was pretty strange for Nicole Foggy. Nearly lost the place to Brandon, who'd made up a few places in the meanwhile. But in the end, that race one, McClay absolutely dominated. He beat Nomella and Foggy. That was the podium. And as we've seen a few times this season, who did get the amateur win? It was Steve Lavelli got the amateur win once again. He's got a few of them so far this championship. So that round one, that race one, Marco, just maybe that's the difference between last season and this season with George McClay, because I think he only took pole position by like half a tenth of a second. And yet, I think last season that would just been a race where he starts in second or third and then finished in second or third. So this season puts it on pole position and just makes it look easy. I mean, this is a guy who only won 2 races before this season in the Euro V8 Supercar Championship. And yet he's just winning them for fun this season. This new car has just gotten that extra little bit of pace, and that's all he needed to really take this championship by the horns.
You know, he's doing the progression that we have seen from Brandon, from Foggy, from Evdoka, but he's doing that so quickly now. And of course, a big portion of that has to be, I think, with the new car. He really is really blossoming into a bona fide title contender, and we can say at this point of the season, Sam, he is probably the favorite. You know, of course. Foggy is still a very tough competitor. Brandon, unfortunately, is lagging behind because of his poor start of the season. But McClay really putting a very strong claim for the title win. Of course, there is a long way to go, and you know, next Saturday we are at not in 2 weeks, not this Saturday, the next one. I mean, not tomorrow, but you won't listen to this tomorrow probably. But yeah,
So you can just say next Saturday, to be fair. I reckon.
I mean, or this Saturday.
Oh, this Saturday. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry, again, tangent. And honestly, this podcast is going down the drain at the moment. But because Sam Kuma always gets really confused when I say next Saturday. Does next Saturday in Italy mean the upcoming Saturday, the next Saturday that will occur, or does it mean the following Saturday? So not
Yes.
this Saturday, but next Saturday.
Good point. It's very confusing for us in Italy, this concept, because yes, for us, next Saturday is the one it's tomorrow, basically.
Okay, right. That's not like the
I
UK
mean, you
then.
should say because next is prossimo, sabato prossimo, next Saturday, which is the next Saturday, no matter when. Even though it would be very weird for me today, Friday, to say next Saturday to an Italian, you know, because we could just say tomorrow, no? Or if it was yesterday, Thursday, we would say just Saturday. And you should say sabato prossimo venturo, which means the next Friday, but Saturday, but no one says that. It's so ancient. Another thing we struggle a lot in Italy when we speak English, the phrase every other Saturday, which means every 2 Saturdays, no? But
Yep.
for us it sounds like it's every Saturday. It's one of those little nuances that you have to pick up, and it really could make things very confusing. But yes, next time that the series is going to take place, we will be in Foggy's hunting ground at Bathurst. A big enduro race, of course, so one race for all the points of the regular racing day. And Foggy is, well, maybe they are trying to jinx him, but every competitor you ask says that he's pretty much unbeatable around there. What do you think about it? Because this could be, I mean, if McClay if he wins, it's incredible. If he can limit the damage, like finish second, this could be a big turning point of the championship because it will give him another big confidence boost, knowing that he can keep up. I mean, you can get away with Foggy winning at Bathurst if you finish second, but if it's a track that doesn't allow for any kind of mistakes, and despite McClay being so good this season, he's still, I think, not 100% immune from mistakes. No one is, but he himself, he's still in that growing curve. I think as a V8 supercar driver on iRacing, so it could be a crucial round in the progression of the championship.
Yeah, it's almost going to. It's almost when you've got two football teams, isn't it? And one goes away from home to the other, and if you can beat them away from home, then all of a sudden that's quite a big statement. Of course, Foggy absolutely crushed the film. I mean, he was a minute clear at Nordschleife, and Nordschleife and Bathurst are his two strongest rounds. Dare I say, I think Foggy probably got an 80% chance to win that round. Klisterman's usually very good as well, to be fair, at Bathurst. I remember the last time he had an injury around Bathurst. I think Klisterman got pole and then tapped the wall on the first lap. Had to get a couple of fast repairs within his pit stops. But the Foggy won, but Klisterman still finished second place, and that was one of Klisterman's best drives that season. So you don't rule out Klisterman as well for that one. Of course, race 2 at Barcelona. We'll just go through that one as well. So Lavelli starts from pole. He led, and then he didn't lead because he spun at the final chicane, and I was all of a sudden saying, "Oh, he hit him! He hit him!" He spun by himself. Buzan spun from second place at turn 1 as well, so it wasn't great for him. Alsop was leading for Racecraft then for the first few laps. The first 5.5 laps, actually, he led, did Richard Alsop. Foggy and Branton then quickly got past, though. Then the big moment in the race was they both pitted on the same lap, which we were thinking, Nicole, why have you done that? And then we found out why he'd done that because he, as we found out in the interviews, he told Brandon, you've got to put 7 gallons of fuel in. And then Brandon put 7 gallons of fuel in, and Foggy got ahead. And Johnny asked, well, how much fuel did you put in? Oh, 5 gallons, mate. So Foggy got ahead of Brandon because he is scheming. That's incredible. I'd kick him out of the team, honestly, for that. He got ahead. George McClay had got up to third, so he had got past Alsop. He then spun coming out of the pits. He did Van Loosenord, as that move is now called, when you exit the pits at Barcelona. You take too much curb at the first corner and spin the car around. That's Van Loosenord was the first to do it. And certainly McClay will not be the last to do it. He dropped outside the top 3 because he had a chance of maybe catching up to the top 2 as well because he pitted a lap earlier. But he dropped probably to the equivalent of about 6th and 7th. Of course, not all the pit stops had been done. He did eventually recover to 4th, to be fair. Some Joes just spent so long out on tyres. Sebula, I think, was the worst, where he was like, well, fresh tyres? Nah, I'm going to stay on these absolutely destroyed tyres instead. And Klosterman as well stayed out too long, it seems. Well, they literally pitted with about 5 laps to go, and this is a high deg track. So had absolutely awful tyres by the end of their stint. I didn't really work out for them. In the end, it was Foggy who won ahead of Brianton Endo. Richard Alsop, dare I say, got his first ever podium. For Suzuka, he was pretty close to getting a podium. I think that was his first ever podium in the series, and it helped Foggy get closer in the championship now, Marco. We've all been saying how it looks as though it's going to be close between McClay and Foggy. Jackson's lost a few points. You think he qualified in second place at Barcelona and had a pretty rubbish round in the end by his standards after a really good Barber round when he won race 1, of course. I think he won another race as well this season. So he's third in the championship. Brandon bringing it back, Warmingham fifth. McKnight's been a bit, I don't know, no offense to Jamie, a bit underwhelmed. I think probably putting his attention to other leagues, the more the Australian leagues. And then it's Lavelli leading the club. Sam Bizan's doing well in 8th place in the championship. Klusman down in 10th at the moment. But yeah, of course, it was an incredible start to the season, Marco, for George McClay. I mean, he was so far clear of Foggy, probably 200 points clear. Foggy bringing that margin back now. I believe we're pretty much at the halfway point of the season. And do you think it's a two-way battle now? Or do you think Jackson and Brandon could bring themselves back into the fray by the end of the season?
I still keep thinking that one way or the other, Brandon is going to come back into the picture, even as an outside challenger, maybe towards the end of the season. Jackson, unfortunately, and it pains me to say because, but I've been covering this series for quite a while now. Still, I see from him a lack of consistency, and he hasn't really changed. In the years I've been covering this championship. Which, by the way, I mean the Bathurst round will be almost to the date of my Apex Racing TV debut.
Oh yeah, and that was at Bathurst.
That was at
Yeah,
Bathurst
wow.
on the 7th of April, on a Saturday. And then I remember because the 8th was Sunday and the 9th, it was my birthday. And basically, this will be in my autobiography, of course. But,
Of course.
I did
You've already started writing it, have you?
yeah, of course. Actually, this is the second book because the first stops at 30 years old and the second starts, I mean, or maybe, I don't know, well, whatever, because, yeah, but the fact is, I did the
Where can I
broadcast.
get this book? I want to buy this book,
It's
please.
coming, it's coming.
Awesome,
So
thanks.
basically, I did the broadcast on the 7th, the tryout broadcast from Bathurst, and then I didn't hear from. I was like waiting. I mean, why is Alex not contacting me? Did it was not good enough? Was it you know maybe? And then I kid you not, ninth I was watching. There was WrestleMania Sunday night, Monday morning. So it was the clock strikes midnight in Italy. My family comes with a cake. We eat the cake whilst watching WrestleMania with a friend of mine. And like midnight 15, Alex texts me and says, "You're in." So, what a beautiful story. I mean, aren't you
God.
crying out a bit? Like, I mean,
Well, I'm just thinking, you seem to eat a lot of cakes. I'm not gonna lie.
yes.
Most stories revolve around cakes. There's just a cake in the background. Always, and that is how life should be as well. But no, well,
Well,
that's very
there
good
will
to
be
hear.
cake for the broadcast because, well, Saturday, of course, is the 4th of April, no? When we do the Bathurst race. And then on the 5th, it's my brother's birthday. So probably we'll have a cake at midnight as we do for my. And then we'll have cake again on the 9th because it's my birthday again. So, I mean, I would invite you, but it's not the best of times, unfortunately,
No,
for you to
no.
come here.
Yeah, travel restrictions and that. And it's my anniversary coming up as well. Dare I say, it might even clash. I think it's so. I think it's the 4th of April. That's my anniversary is. When is the Bathurst round?
The 4th of April.
Okay, I'll check if it is or
We'll
not.
have a big
That would be a
party.
nice.
I'll ask my mom to
Yeah,
make cake for the 4th as well, so I will eat it and
you can eat it for
telepathically.
me.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, that would be yeah, very good. I will check on that one. But yeah, so McClay after that round of the championship, still leading the way. Foggy they closing the gap. Jackson and Brandon could they bring it back as well? And there's so many others as well. He will hopefully take race victories, and we'll be back with the UV8 Supercar Series, like Marco said, on the 4th of April. And yeah, we'll be from Bathurst for an endurance round. Do not miss that. Now, iRacing. like I said, the world was a very different place 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago even, when we last did one of these podcasts. And it's been absolutely exceptional, Marco. The change in sim racing. I mean, it's what everyone's gone to. Just for an idea of how popular the esports network in particular has come, I think it's up to about 36,000 subscribers. I think it has increased by about 8,000 subscribers just in a couple of weeks. And on our videos that we've been doing, we've been getting pretty much every other broadcast we've been doing, we've been reaching 200 live viewers. And before, we were struggling to reach 100 live viewers. And I think we did a broadcast the other day in Aussie Mixed and Fixed, dare I say? No, it was World GT, which reached 4,500 views, which is higher than any league race would have been getting previously. I mean that's approximately 4 times larger than what we were getting in the past. So it's absolutely incredible how everyone's been going to sim racing. And unfortunately, one of the symptoms of that is everyone on the YouTube comments now saying it is Norris and Verstappen in this race, or when are they racing? Which is annoying, because there's so many other drivers. And where's all the Ash Sutton? Where's Ash Sutton racing and Ben Palmer as well? They're real life drivers. They should
Mhm.
be getting amount of attention. But no, it's brilliant. The change that has occurred, Marco, and of course, unfortunately, but fortunately at the same time, this is just going to be something that is going to be the case for the next few months as well, and it's how much iRacing can really profit of this because this is a once in a decade opportunity to absolutely thrive in iRacing. I mean, this could be a massive gain for the simulator.
It's I mean, it happens every once in a while in certain niche environments that they have an unbelievable burst of popularity all of a sudden. I was thinking the other day that basically sim racing, car racing is the only sport I think you can perfectly replicate in a virtual environment. I was
Yeah,
thinking about football, for example. A FIFA match is completely the skills required to win a match in FIFA or Pro Evolution Soccer are completely different from the skills required to actually play football. And same goes for even bike games. I mean, yes, there are some I think some very expensive basically rigs that you can set up to, but even then, the bike games are even the most popular one, or there's not a really in-depth bike simulator. Everything else I'm thinking. I mean, unless you know want to watch a
um
stream of
well
Uno, or
I've seen some golf.
golf. Yes, I was thinking about, yeah, but even that is
Yeah.
very. I was looking into that because I play a golf game in my spare time. With my Xbox controller. Basically, yes, there are these rigs where you can play golf and send the inputs into the game, but they are so pricey. I'm talking about $5,000, $10,000. So I mean, yes, it is certainly not for all. And I'm not saying that sim racing is cheap, because certainly it's not, especially Even though I was thinking the other day, and this brought a smile to my face. I think I'm now in the positive with iRacing, considering all the money I spent, but all the money I made back from broadcasting. So,
I get.
uh,
It's
yeah.
taken a while. 2 years, and you've finally broken even.
It's, but yeah, I mean, I've seen many sports have this boom period, the niche sports, or you want to call them professional competitions. For example, in Italy, we had a massive boom of darts a couple of years ago, and the darts federations that we have in Italy, we have four of them, were not able to capitalize on it because of there were differences between and money prevailed, and no one could find an agreement. Or 2 years earlier, we had the explosion of professional poker here in Italy, and again, 2003, 2004, we have the explosion of professional wrestling in Italy, and now it's a niche sport. I mean, more than niche. I mean, Sky is not even renewing the rights after like I think 20 years in Italy of broadcasting all the professional WWE especially shows. So uh, here it's a bit different, of course, because then one day real sports are coming by. But if something can be taken away, and of course this is long-term thinking, it's not. I mean, these numbers probably they will grow in the future. I'm talking about like 5 to 10 years from now. Um, one thing that this could have long-lasting impact, the amount of people that will this will basically break the skepticism wall that many race fans, some drivers, I think even some of the fans had towards sim racing, and and really bring the two worlds again back. No, not again. Bring the two worlds closer together, and living in a common ecosystem right now, the sim racing and real racing. So this is something that I think will be was always going to happen, but this of course gave a big push. For example, the other night we had a series that we broadcasted, me and Austin, Drivers Club of Road Atlanta, and basically 3/4 of the field were just signed up for the day. Those are drivers and coaches from the Road Atlanta racetrack. They just signed up for that day on iRacing, bought the Porsche Cayman, bought their truck, and they were racing around, and they were having, and people were super enthusiastic on the end of the race. Especially these, it was unbelievable to see all these rookies 2.5 license now in the live timing page. So, and these are all people that some of them will continue and stay there, and maybe this was the final straw that made people give in and embrace the beauty of sim racing. Um, the boom will not continue for two reasons. One, because all boom periods are destined to end, and second, hopefully, the world will go back to a state of normalcy in the next few months. Hopefully, so. If we can capitalize on this ceiling being broken, and I hate to say this, I hate the figure of speech of the breaking the glass ceiling, but that's probably what's going on right now, then sim racing can really become even more popular and even more respected, and more numbers, more drivers, more real life driver, more sponsors, a more structured organization of the championships, etc. Will be certainly something that this has made more quick, and it will certainly be something to keep an eye on, and hopefully everyone can benefit. Now I have to sorry, because we are already 45 minutes into the podcast, and we have but I have to say that the events we saw on TV, the events we saw organized by the real life series have been brilliant. The eNASCAR was fantastic. We had Euro NASCAR. They did basically they did a race in collaboration with the Italian NASCAR Championship that I commentated on. The guys from Euro NASCAR, and there was former NASCAR Cup driver Alan Day, Loris Seseman, and many other real life drivers. They were super nice. They took it seriously. And you got some viewers, of course. In NASCAR on American TV got a lot of viewers. The thing that got more viewers and that made me ashamed was the F1 thing, and
Yeah.
it was if it was in the past, I would have argued with a lot of people, because have you ever seen that meme where this is what I do, this is what my mom thinks I do, this is what my friends think I do, this is what I really do, no? Like, a lot of people know that do commentary for sim racing, but it's a vague idea. You have no idea what I'm talking about. No, it's so when finally it is shown on Sky here in Italy, and they see that absolute shit show, sorry for the word, and then people are saying on social media, people who, the big crowd, no, the casual crowd, no, saying, is this sim racing? Is this something to be taken seriously? Because to me, it seemed not very serious. This was the average message. I also got a couple of private messages as, is this the thing you do that you call work? That was bad. That was really bad. but unfortunately, being F1 was the most popular thing. But yeah, I mean, that was absolutely that was disgraceful. That was a black eye on sim racing, and hopefully the experiment doesn't continue because it was bad, but bad. I mean, the level of badness of that event cannot even describe. I feel like I have words inside of me, but I cannot translate them into actual words to express my disappointment and anger and all around frustration and absolute, uh, feeling of despair thinking about that. So, if you are, I mean, this is not a podcast for this is a very specific niche podcast as well, but if you haven't watched anything else and you stumble on this podcast by chance, watch the proper stuff. Watch the eSports Network, watch the other, iRacing, watch even some R Factor, Race Room. Don't watch that. That had nothing to do with F1 and nothing to do with professional sim racing or no proper sim racing. That was an event full of many people who have no idea what they were doing on a platform that is not ready, not even for LAN, because their esports series is done on LAN, and my god, the cars look ugly when they drive. They are slipping and sliding and sideways. That is not sim racing. If you only watch that, you got a very, very bad idea. Now back to iRacing. iRacing is doing something very interesting. In NASCAR, IndyCar, of course. We will have on
The
Apex.
IMSA race.
We have
That's
IMSA.
at 90 minutes.
IMSA race was beautiful, and on Apex we are going to have the Indy Lights coming up. The official Indy Lights replacement series will come, and of course the Formula Regional for the Americas will be joining us as well next week. So I'm quite sure that is going to be much better than the F1, and really, it's going to be no surprise because on one end you have drivers who take things seriously and respect the fact that they. I mean, you have seen in the past very often when they had real life drivers do some sim racing. For example, the Formula E races, or I remember they had like. The Toyota LMP1 drivers racing GT Sport, they were crashing into each other like the amusement fair, crash cars that you do know that little. They don't take it, and if you don't take it seriously, the viewer never takes it seriously. And F1 was not serious. In NASCAR, IMSA, etc. I'm sure IndyCar will be fantastic as well. Indy Lights here on Apex will be beautiful as well. Those are the things that really should shine and even to the casual viewer tell this is a, a real thing. You can take it seriously in the sense that you can train hard, race hard. You can be a bit more of a casual driver like myself, but still taking the race seriously, which means not crashing intentionally into each other, don't cut the corners, don't do stupid things, don't just run around like a headless chicken. And sim racing will thrive if we all, if the real life drivers that come in put effort and respect and take this seriously. And again, most of them are doing it. So hopefully, again, F1 doesn't do anything again because that was that risks undoing all the good work that the other simulators and championships are doing right now. Sorry for that, but I had to say it because that I had it brewing in me for like a week now.
No, no, it's very much true, all of that. And I hope, I mean, Norris does quite a bit on iRacing. I hope he puts his, realize he's an F1 driver, but I hope he stands up, let's say, and says, that, or tries to promote the iRacing more than the Formula One streaming that he does, because obviously he prefers iRacing. You realise that it's a much better service, and because he's got a lot of power to do that, and all the F1 drivers do as well. I know Albon, of course, is on iRacing. Zoo as well, the F2 driver. How terrific
Hmm.
was he in that esports competition? Would be great to see him on iRacing soon. I'm sure he's probably mixed around on various proper simulators in the past. And yeah, hopefully those guys kind of have a little bit of influence themselves, because they're not stupid. They realize kind of where the market ought to be going to. But no, I've been impressed by iRacing because sometimes they are a bit slow when it comes to these things, and yet everyone's kind of jumped on the bandwagon pretty quick. I mean, I feel like I want to send a few messages to various people. Let's try to get, I don't know, British touring cars or something involved in broadcasting race, or getting involved in one way or another. Particularly seeing that, of course, Ash is involved and doing very well in Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship. So hopefully we can do something like that. But no, it's been impressive, the turnaround at the moment. And like I said, unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be the case for a bit longer as well. So there's going to be plenty of time for it to grow even more. Of course, the season 2 build has come out since the last time we did a podcast, Marco. We'll allow this podcast, by the way, to extend a bit more than an hour, because we are down on several hours of podcast that we should have done.
I don't know how
So
happy Samuli will be about that, but
yeah, it might
I
take a
can do
while
a
to
quick and dirty
process this one.
recap of what came out in the last two builds. Last two, sorry.
Yes. Well, GT4s, I did try that. They're nice. I like them. Yeah, they're easy to drive. A bit easier to drive than the Porsche Cup, I'd say. But at the same
I
time, kind of
mean,
similar in terms of
a
pace.
bit easier, it's like an understatement. Like, it's like that car is on rails. Then you want to push, it's a bit more sketchy, but that's okay. It's a very nice car to drive. I think perfect as an entry-level GT4 car. Uh, of course, this sudden demand for the iRacing IndyCar Challenge pushed out the Halo, sorry, the aeroscreen on, and I have to tell you, um, I race on a single monitor, of course. I jumped in that car yesterday after the patch, and I was surprised because it's not at all invasive. I have no issues driving with it. Um, and secondly, it looks like you are on board on a spaceship now with the IndyCar. So,
Yeah, it does a bit. Yeah.
and I was surprised because I forgot about this, but iRacing did their homework because actually it's not just a graphical update. It changed the physics of the car. The center of gravity has been pushed forward. The car is a bit heavier, especially at the front. I raced on Sunday and I raced on Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning before the update in Texas. And racing now, the car feels a bit different. It's a bit more understeer because you have all that weight there at the front. It's not. I don't know why I thought it was only going to be a graphical update, but that thing is heavy. That thing is heavy. Needs to sustain the. Again, I was so scared. I can tell you that it was much more tough to adapt to the AFP, that Rhino horn that they put last year. Compared, this is much better and it blends nicely. Again, it seems like you are driving in a spaceship. So big thumbs up on that. We had new tire model added on several cars, including the DP or the GT cars. I said this in the live broadcasting as well. GT3 cars are much nicer to drive right now. GT cars as well. GT cars and GT3 cars and all the other cars in the new tire model now punish you a lot if you lock up the tires. You go straight, as it should be. The grass is still very, very slippery. What else did we have in terms of it certainly is the new damage model, of course, being lovely. I can imagine lovely on that TCR series, of course, an Apex Racing League TCR series. It's certainly nice when they clash into each other. Still a bit weird when the damage happens and then goes away. I had the Cayman race. I was talking to you earlier the other night, and a couple of times we had some wheels rolling on the track and then magically reattaching themselves. And of course, being that the viewers were mostly new to iRacing, I had to explain that that's the way it works because of speed of light, which is yeah,
Not fast enough. It's to speed
it's a
up.
very cold-hearted woman, to put it mildly. I cannot say what I say. It's a Sheldon Cooper quote, by the way, the one I cannot say live on the air, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, iRacing has made a bit of mistakes with the Corvette car when it came out, but they fixed it. The only issue I have with the new build is that I think that TCR and GT4 are a bit too close, as in real life, unfortunately. So this is ruining the racing a bit in the official series, especially for the TCR guys, because even if you are like 1 second off the pace, 1 second and a half off the pace of the GT4 leader, you might find yourself in the mix together with the top TCR guys with your GT4. And we know TCR, it's all about close quarter racing, those nose to tail battles, and then you find that GT4 car in the middle of the way. And uh, but this ties nicely with our next page. That didn't seem to be too much of a problem last Sunday in SimRacersWorld Endurance. See what I did there?
It was nice. You're a professional. Those 11 years of podcasting has proven you well. Yeah. So Sim Racers World Endurance Championship, GT3, Porsche Cup, GT4, and TCR. Of course, first round for the GT4, something that we spoke about quite a bit for the past few times. This is we've done a podcast for every single round of this championship as well because it's a good championship. And honestly, watch back the broadcast. It's a long one, but if you like Battlestar Galactica, then check it out. I'm just trying to think of other stuff that we talked about.
Re- re-
Courgettes.
Remember, it's on
Um,
Prime Video now in the UK, so you can watch
oh,
it.
is it okay?
They
I've got a
told you
lot
in
of
the
time on my
chat.
hands then.
Were you paying attention? People in the chat were telling you, Sam, it's on Amazon Prime Video in the
Oh,
UK.
okay.
Not in Italy, unfortunately, but I can use my VPN to watch the American version. I mean, basically in the USA, it's free for everyone on the Sci-Fi website, which is the one of the channels that helped produce that show. So yeah, I will start my rewatch tonight. Yeah, that was my point.
Unfortunately, whenever I see Adam Hedgecock in Discord now, I think toaster, and
It's a toaster.
I don't know what that means. But
That's why you should watch Battlestar Galactica.
exactly, but I can't get that out of my head. So I feel terrible about that one. Anyway, Sim Racers World Endurance Championship. Fury Sim Sport. So, oh my god, at the start of the race, iRacing, come on, you dropped the ball here. GT4s were ahead of the GT3s and everyone else. I will probably look in the league thing because it tells you what rating, what rank basically the car is that's been introduced. And it's clearly has its rating very wrong because it was ahead of the GT3s on the grid. So that was a little bit clumsy. In the top of the GT3s, we'll go class by class. So Fury binned it. No, it wasn't. Was it Fury who binned it? It was Fury who binned it on the first lap. Dynamics also got involved in something, and Stage 1. I think I dare say there were another team as well who all got who all got instance. However, also dropped the ball was Ian Roots with setting up the session because he put all fast repairs were unlimited, which I must say in hindsight was a fantastic addition. It's really good for having fast repair. It keeps a lot of drivers in. So year one, I think, got a penalty, and they can correct me on this. Mr. Well, they are free um, to call me up on this one. But I believe they got a
It was a long
penalty
race, so it's okay if you
yeah,
don't remember
a-
all the details.
about 15 minutes in after leading for a bit. By the way, they were on the baseline setup for year one, so it turned into a bit of a dull race. But then they dropped back. They finished like fifth or something. Still decent points. Abruzzi led for a bit with T3, but then T3 took the lead. I think Fury Silver were in second place. Meanwhile, the main Fury team with like Warner and Dorrington were making their way back up through the order after their fast repair. So then we got into the last kind of couple of hours, and T3 were well out in the lead. They had 50 seconds in hand. The main Fury squad were getting ahead of Fury Sim Sport Silver, who went for a double stint. Didn't really work out for them
No.
great. And then, so T3 were easy going. And we were saying like 2 laps before, I swear. They've got this in the bag now. It would take something big to take this away from them. And then they disconnected from the session. One of their drivers just lost connection, had a power cut, we believe, and lost connection. And they went from a minute ahead to half a minute behind. It was the two Fury teams in the lead. Finally, Warner and Dorrington had got into the lead. Did a double stint as well for some reason, even though it didn't work for their teammates. They did a double stint as well. And we were telling them, "What are you doing, guys?" But they did it. Then, but if there's any consolation for T3 when it came to that, it did mean that they were quite comfortable on fuel by the end, which proved to be important because they were half a minute behind or 25 seconds behind. Then Fury came into the pits. They got held up behind some traffic when they were trying to make their way out. T3 didn't take tyres as the last roll of the dice because otherwise they weren't going to catch up. They pitted a few laps later, 6 laps later, I believe. Came out ahead of Fury by about 3 seconds, and it was pretty much a head-to-head race. Fury with fresh tyres, or fresher tyres, probably 20-lap fresher tyres, than T3, and they were going to take it to the end of the race. T3 hung on brilliantly for a while. In the end, though, Fury finally got ahead. However, there were 2 laps to go. Fury had to pit. They left themselves, I think, 26 laps to do on their last tank of fuel. And considering that they'd done 23 and 24 laps since all the way up to that point, it was going to be a massive effort to save that amount of fuel. They did save a little bit of fuel in the tow behind T3 for a while, but it wasn't enough. It pitted with 2 laps to go. And it was T3 Motorsports who take back some points in the championship. They won out in the end. Second place was Fury SimSports GT3. I'm just trying to get the standings up right now. Fury SimSports Silver were in third place. Apologies, just behind. Yep, now I've got them. Abruzzi eSports finished in fourth. Year One Racing, like I said, with the baseline set in fifth. Nomad Dynamics, Dynamics Green, Stage One Dynamics for the third time, and Stage One again. That was the result. Actually, no, we'll talk about the GT3s for a bit, Mark. That was what race. We saw an incredible battle for the win at Daytona, and we thought, well, that's not going to be beaten this season. I think the Spa race may be just beating that, just because we were flummoxed by the end. I'm usually someone who's well on top of the fuel, and I kind of knew it was going to be close, but I thought, oh well, they're not fuel saving, so they'll be all right. And then all of a sudden they come into the pits with 2 laps to go, just as he thought they'd got it in the bag. And yeah, T3. I think they deserved it in the end with T3. They drove a faultless race, but you do have to feel a little bit bad for Fury.
It was a fantastic race. I mean, and still think that in these longer races I will give like one spare car, one faster pair
Yeah.
to just one.
As long as you get the car back to the pits, I think. I think if you have to tow, then that's not totally fair. But if you can get it back on your own steam, then fair enough. Take the faster pair.
Yeah, especially until all categories get the new damage model, because that is going to make things different, in my opinion. Especially when you have to repair some bits of the car. That, of course, with the old damage model, as you like to say, they are not replaced but just smashed back into pieces with a hammer. Suspensions included. Therefore, it's quite possible that you are not going to get it back. I would very much prefer to stay in the pits for half an hour but get my suspension replaced completely, as they do in real life, than to stay there 15 minutes but have it repaired and then it's not repaired because it's still wonky, and you come out of the pits and you said, I just wasted my time, basically.
Yeah.
So. But that's besides the point. Of course, we had unlimited fast repairs in here, so that put everyone on the same. These things, of course, in a one race scenario, they are going to favor someone and punish someone else. Like if this was the case all season long, I bet you that there will be races where some teams will be advantaged than other teams in another race. But it happened. So some teams that shouldn't have been in the contention for the race win were still there. Again, happens. You cannot do anything about it. This GT3 race was absolutely fantastic, and the drama until the end. And this is what I love about endurance racing. You almost never know when the race is in the bag, and we were on the edge until the final lap because of this, of course, the disconnection, the fuel condition. Of course, if I'm not mistaken, and probably you told this, I don't know, because uh, in the final stop, they didn't take tires, the T3 guys, so that put extra pressure, in my opinion, on Fury. Fury had to really push hard, and instead of taking it easy and maybe saving those extra laps of fuel, I don't know if they would have been able to do that. as we have a guy walking in the streets in short sleeves and football shorts here, despite being under lockdown, and it's raining cats and dogs, and he's walking, just walking like oh, it's a beautiful sunny day to stay outside. No, it's pelting down, so okay. Um, what a perfect day to go outside. Okay, sorry, because I'm actually walking in my room as I record this podcast, because I cannot stay seated all day long. It's not good. And yeah, of course, that was GT3, GT Cup with the Cup cars. Unfortunately, we only have two cars, and you need to have two cars to have a race. But in any case, the Rev Match boys were absolutely on top of their game, and Steve Clays and Rob Thyssen, they were absolutely untouchable. They ran away with it. Both cars finished, but in the end, there was really not much to say about that class. A couple of scares for the Rev Match guys. And then we have the debut of the GT4 class, and that was long awaited. And that car provided some very, very exciting racing. And the guys, maybe because of the racetrack, the way it was, but there was not a lot of overlapping, if anything, any overlap at all between the TCR and GT4. And GT4 had a brilliant, brilliant race.
Yeah, and I feel bad because I don't think we did justice, to be honest. Because I think with the GT3 guys, we kind of know the championship between T3 and Fury, whereas with the GT4, we don't know the teams and the drivers quite so well at the moment. It was incredibly close. The top three separated by 15 seconds. Fiercely forward, they won ahead of Fury Simsport GT4, 3.6 seconds the difference. Fiercely forward, Blackie were leading really close to the end. Had a late pit stop, but they nearly got the overcut. We knew that they were going to have to do a pit stop. They knew they were going to have to do a pit stop. But they had bigger pace out in the lead, and they nearly managed to do an overcut, I think, on the others. But they did finish 14.5 seconds off the lead, stage one, and Abruzzi, the other two teams in that class. But yeah, hopefully we'll give that a bit more attention next time. We did have an incredible GT3 battle, to be fair, simultaneously. There weren't any changes, though, for the GT4 lead. They were pretty much separated by about 5 seconds for the entire last hour of the race, but Fury couldn't quite overhaul that difference. And yeah, basically for are the first ever winners in the Abruzzi SimRacersWorld Endurance Championship. And then in the TCRs, yeah, well, I mean, I feel like it could have been an incredible battle actually in the TCRs because there are so many competitive teams. They always say this, how I think possibly the TCR class is the strongest class, possibly better than the GT3s. Maybe that's because they're arguably easier to drive. Front wheel drive, it's probably less at risk of making mistakes. You saw Eau Rouge and Radion, Radion and Blanchimont in particular. Loads of mistakes from the rear wheel drive cars, not so many mistakes from the TCR cars. T3 with, I say T3, it wasn't really T3, it was Kevin Ackerman, who drove a brilliant race to win in the TCR category. However, he was the only driver, and teammates can't do that. So they got disqualified. They did beat Texas Fisto Motorsport by 50 seconds. I am looking at. Close between the two teams in the early stages. About first hour, they were close. However, then once Pitstye lost the draft, it was pretty much game over. T3 pulled away to.
A thought came into my mind, Sam. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think that also, because that was yes, of course, the slipstream got lost, but something that really I noticed that maybe I should have said it during the race, but I didn't because I forgot to think about it. Of course, even because in the GT4 and TCR you do fuel and tires at the same time, no? But still, you have to, because we are using the IMSA rules for those cars. But still, with the driver change, you lose time. So, 2 seconds, I don't know how much time you gain by not changing drivers, but of course, in the long run, 5 seconds here, 5 seconds there, and then you can build a gap. Then, of course, traffic and the draft missing, etc. So this is also why it's important. People might be asking, well, but where is the problem? The problem is that, of course, if you don't do driver changes, you're going to have a massive advantage. Of course, the advantage is bigger in those series where you have to do everything together. now that I think about it, because of course if you have to do fuel and tires together, you can go out quicker. So whilst in other categories where you do tires and fuel separately, of course, there the driver changes a much smaller penalty in terms of seconds, because iRacing simulates the driver opening the door and doing his belts, the ANS device, etc., coming out, and the other driver coming in, strapping himself, etc. So just a food for thought, of course. I think that. But I mean, in any case, driving 6-7 hours on your own, the way he drove, like faultless driving, I mean, deserves our praise. But the rules are very important, and therefore, rightfully winners were the guys from Texans Fifth Time Motorsport. We didn't see a lot of bump drafting. I was a bit disappointed because we saw that in Road America, we saw that in Daytona, in the TCR class. I was expecting more from here. But yeah. Also, I just realized something, Sam. Is that in 10 minutes I need to go live with a broadcast.
Wow, okay. Well, okay, we'll rush on with this then. So well done to Texans Fitstone Motorsport. Come on, Mark, eh? We're meant to be professionals. So Fitstone Motorsport 1, Racing Centre Vib 3 Sports, or Vibe Sports, whatever, finished in second, Rev Match Academy in third, Pearson Sport in
Go
fourth.
watch
Everyone
the end of
finished
the
there.
broadcast because I asked one of their drivers to pronounce the name for us, because in Road America they told the name in the chat how it is pronounced, but now we have recorded proof of how to
I
say
am
it.
just saying what
And I
the
forgot it
words
already.
say in front of me, all right?
Yes,
So,
yes, yes. I agree
what
with
can
you.
I say? Um, so in the championship, by the way, Pearson Sport lead the way. Only 13 points clear. It could swap next time. Porsche Cup, Rev Match leading the way. GT4s, of course, clean slates. That could be close championship to the end. There's a lot of competitive teams there. And TCR, Texan Fitstone Motorsport, 30 points ahead of T3. Because they, oh no, well, they've still got points though for that round. So they're miles ahead of T3. Forget that one. Pearson Sport second, and Racing Centre Vib 3 Sports will be in third in that championship once T3's points get wiped. Next round of the championship, Marco, you're going to love this. Silverstone.
Yeah, I know.
That I'm looking forward to that one. That's 3 weeks away. I believe 170 laps of that circuit. Yeah, who's going to win out of the GT3s? Because it's been weird so far. T3 have won a couple of rounds, have been the fastest at a couple of rounds. Few have been the fastest couple of rounds, so it's tricky to call.
Home race for Fury, I'm going for them.
Yeah, probably is a good shout, that one. So that was the Abutzi SimRacersWorld Endurance Championship. Check that out in 3 or 4 weeks, probably 3 or maybe even 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. There you go. Say words. 2 or 3 weeks away. It's that one on Sunday afternoon. And finally, Marco, quick words. What series are you looking forward to most next week?
Well, of course, Bathurst in the Euro V8s, of course, for all the good reasons, of course, both personal and because it's a great race. That's going to be fun. We have a lot of stuff coming up, by the way. Of course, Friday, if my maths are correct, round one of the iRacing IndyCar series live from Barber. So you don't
Ooh,
want
good.
to miss that. Friday at 20 GMT. That's going to be fantastic. There's going to be fantastic drivers. It's our own version of it's the IndyCar version of the NASCAR iRacing series. Everyone is going to be there. All the great drivers. There is going to be massive strength of fields in that series. It will have only limited time slots, and that is going to be, of course, the big one because it's Friday night and because it's the broadcast race. So, I mean, it's going to be a great party. Don't want to miss it. And of course, another personal note on Wednesday, we go with the SimRacersWorld GT Pro Series from my home track of Monza here on iRacing, Monza and Imola. Of course, Imola is the closer, but Monza I consider my own track as well. So that's always fun. And as someone was said, no, we had a first lap, first corner crash at the Glen, a start finish line crash at Zolder, and as I think PJ Clyson said it best, in the SimRacersWorld group. He said, thankfully we are going to a track that is not known for its first corner pileups next week. So yeah.
Oh dear. No, I'm sure everyone will clean up their acts. Anyone who's listening from the SimRacers World series, stick with it. I mean, I realize there's been a couple of poor starts, but
Yeah, yeah.
honestly, we've covered this series for a few seasons. You have starts like that. With this new time model, a couple of guys spinning. That's not, you can't say, oh, well, the driving stands have gone down the pan. That's just a couple of guys spinning, and one person made a bit of contact at Zolder. Sometimes these things get emphasized too much.
I
So
mean,
please,
and Sam, it happened in Glen and Zolder. I mean, two worst possible places. Glen at the
yeah,
S's, where there is no runoff area, and at Zolder at the start finish line when there is no. You have the pit wall on one end, and basically the grandstand is on top of the track there, so there is like half a meter, I think, between the track and the Armco barrier. So, but yeah, a couple of guys. We seen this Rigmotech, fantastic series at Le Mans. Everyone's fun in the first corner on cold tires in the GT3. We saw that in with GT Force the other night. Me and Austin in the DCRA series. Those cold tires, the drivers need to understand that they need to be super careful. Every one of them. But I agree with you. This is a fantastic series, absolutely beautiful. Please don't give up on it because we certainly want. We have some fantastic numbers, and it's one of the best series, if not the best, that we broadcast. And every Wednesday night, it's a guarantee of great show. And also little bit of a BOP update from iRacing yesterday. So maybe some things will change next week.
yeah, it could certainly happen. Yeah, over the last year and a half when we've been broadcast, certainly been best series on Apex Racing TV. So yeah, do check out all of that. Also tonight there's the broadcast that Marco is about to do. So that's why am I saying that? It's not going to be. I'm not that quick at publishing stuff. It's not going to be up by then. When will this be out? Probably, maybe, perhaps Sunday. So if this is Sunday, check out the Apex Racing League GT Championship tonight. Also, World GT on Monday Eve. Oh no, it's a break week. Sorry about that. There's loads of series. Subscribe to Apex Racing TV. That way you can see everything that we post on that channel and the eSports Network as well, which is absolutely brilliant that we've managed to confirm that one. So you can keep up to date with all our series and do check out our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and do check out Twitch as well. But for now, from me and from Marco, we're going to say goodbye. And we'll see you next week for another podcast. Another podcast. Another podcast. Another podcast.